Get a £5 free bet every week with Offer Club from William Hill. Simply stake a total of £20 or more across the week on pre-match football accumulators with 4 or more selections, and you'll get a £5 free bet on the Friday. Join William Hill Offer Club on mobile or online now.
This is KUGAN CASSIUS for i4TV in association with Macklin's Gym Marbella, from the residence here of Jim McDonnell. How are you, Jim?
I'm alright, mate, Coog. Always good when I see you, sir.
Always good, mate. Obviously just announced yesterday that James DeGALE will take on BADOU Jack January 14th in America for this huge unification clash. Finally it's on.
He's been, James has just been itching for his date. The date hasn't come too soon. Like, he's absolutely, like, kid opening his first Christmas present. He's so excited about this fight, and it's like great news.
Asked James, obviously he couldn't tell us for the reason why it has taken so long for this fight to happen. I'm not sure you'll be able to give us anything more than that on that, why this has taken this amount of time to happen.
I just think, like, it's a huge fight. It's a unification fight. There's a lot involved behind the scenes with, like, a bit of politics and a bit of this and a bit of that. But basically, like, the main thing is it's now the fight is finally done. The date's here. James has been like a dog with a sword neck, just waiting for this date, and it's a breath of fresh air that the date's finally arrived, and we can now look forward to getting into camp and getting his head around, like, the training camp that's going to take place.
It must have been slightly frustrating, the fact that you knew the fight was going to happen, but without a date being penciled in, it's hard to get sort of that head motivation to, right, that's my date, that's when I'm fighting, even though you know the fight will happen at some point, but you can now just concentrate on everything ahead of Jan 14th. You
know what's great with this fight, like, you've just seen James just now, the enthusiasm in him. He's like a young kid having his first fight. When he boxed Medina, he was, I can't use the word, but he was just like almost demotivated. There was no drive in him. In training, it was like, you had to inspire the kid, and he was like, he was so confident, so got so much belief in his ability. And I said to him, James, at this level, but for this fight, mate, you've just got a James DeGALE's absolutely bursting at the leash to get out there and put on a performance and unify the belts. And I think you're going to see, I know it's easy to say, but I can already feel you're going to see a big performance from James in this fight. He's so excited about the magnitude of the fight, the size of it, everything behind it, and it ain't going to be very hard to motivate him to train to a new level for this fight. And we'll be pushing him boundaries in training. I'm sure he'll be buzzing come fight night.
I mean, I remember, 2 or 3 years ago, and yourself and James was always stating that give James DeGALE in a injury-free scenario and put him against the best fighters in the weight, you'll see the best James DeGALE. And I think that's been evident, hasn't it, in the last sort of year and a half, since obviously beating Darrell. He's fought Brute and had his mandatory against Medina. But we are starting to see, or are seeing now, the real James DeGALE. You know
what? Words, it couldn't have been put better. I think what you're going to see now in James is early James DeGALE, the Olympic gold medalist, just back from Beijing, fresh out the blocks, short haircut, like pinging shots, technically brilliant. I think what you're going to see in this fight, and I'm very confident, you're going to see a mature James DeGALE. You're going to see someone who's grown into the sport, someone who's grown as a world champion, coming up for his third defence. And he's, the motivation in him is great. For me as a coach, it's absolutely brilliant just to see how he is. He's just absolutely, you can see straining at least to get off and go out there and really put the graft in. And I think when you see this James DeGALE, that's what you want to see as a coach. And I can just feel it already, almost having to hold him back before we get right into things. He's just so excited, really. And I think I've said it a few times, but I can really feel a performance coming from James just by his general feeling of everything about this fight. He's just so excited, and an excited James DeGALE means you're going to see a good performance.
Talking to James there, we was talking about, when he was first term pro, the attention he had around that Olympic time, obviously signing with Frank Warren, and then we've seen less of James DeGALE profile-wise in the last year or so, but he's getting, obviously, his career best paydays. So, he said that this sport is very short-lived, and he needs to strike while the iron's hot, and that's what he's doing with all this stuff with obviously Al Heyman. But what do you think about that sort of profile side of it, which seems to have sort of stayed at sort of a static level over the last sort of year or so with James? People know who he is, but where he's not fighting in England, what's that doing for his career?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I remember, I remember words being used about James that he's a buzz fighter, and maybe a lot of truth in that. Maybe his best performances are still to come, and like maybe when that moment arrives, whatever fight it's going to be, whether it's going to be his fight with BADOU Jack. But one thing I will say about James, and you'll see it in this performance, you're going to see a DeGALE performance that a lot of people might not have seen before, because there's things where it's been very quiet around James, like you said, like away from the bright lights and the noise and the publicity. We've been working on different things in James's career as an athlete, and I just think I'm looking at a very, very mature James DeGALE, and I think in this fight a lot of people are going to go, wow, and the kid's getting better. He really is. He's a mature, strong man, and I think the best is yet to come. And I really believe that. I think the best is yet to come. I think you're going to see, even in this fight, I'll go out on record and say, no, you're going to see a real performance from James. I can just see it, feel it, know it, and I think you're going to celebrate his skills over the next 2 or 3 years. I think you'll see plenty of James DeGALE.
What's the main goals here, Jim? If he's successful on January 14th, which we hope he is, becoming unified champion, is it to go after the other belts? Is it just to get him in the biggest fights possible, even if that meant looking elsewhere at different weights?
You know what? Weight-wise, no, because he's like the most natural 168 I've ever seen. He's just so big and strong at the weight, so good at the weight. I used to think one day maybe he'd box at light heavyweight. Definitely never going to box at middleweight. He's healthy at the weight, he's strong at the weight. All the tests that I personally do on all my fighters, James hits his highest numbers, and he's done it when he's weighing 168. So I know what he's about in terms of strength, stamina, everything about him. He's just fantastic at the weight. So I don't ever see him changing weights. I used to say to myself, he could move up, because I really believe he's got the ability to do it at different weights. But as it's gone on, I see that maturity and where he is, and like how strong he is, and everything, his skill factors, everything he does. Like before super middleweight come out, I mean, he was either a middleweight or light heavyweight, and really James would have been a light heavyweight. He wouldn't have been a middleweight. But he's fantastic at super middleweight. The weight suits him fine. So I see James doing his whole career at the same division.
If he's obviously going to stick at 168, there is obviously the possibility of other fighters either light heavy coming down or middleweight going up. He mentioned the likes of, he'd like a fight with Golovkin, Chris Eubank Jr., both currently middleweights. Adonis Stevenson at light heavyweight if he was to come back down to super middleweight. But that's a possibility if these fighters are sort of willing to sort of change their weights to, suit a fight with DeGALE. Yeah,
I mean, James is the type of person just loves a challenge. When you mention them names you just mentioned, especially Golovkin, like his eyes light up. He's like, yeah, that's a bit of me. But the one thing he always adds when we talk about it, as long as they can do the weight, because like he ain't going to go down to 160 and he ain't going to jump up to light heavyweight. That's James is a super middleweight, and like if they want to step into his area and challenge him, like he'll never back away from a challenge. He'll never back away from a challenge as long as it all adds up for him and it's the right thing business-wise, etc. Like he's so motivated. Like as I said in the Medina fight, I didn't see that glint in his eye that I'm seeing with the announcement of the BADOU Jack fight. The excitement of like unifying the belts, and you see what James is about. I think it was mentioned once in an interview that he's a buzz fighter, and I think that's a great description of James. And I know he's buzzing about this one definitely. So I'm just going to flip that.
It's not Al Heyman, is it, Jim?
Reece Blotty.
Close.
Just answered it, Tom.
So, how are you going to set out your camp now between now and obviously Jan 14th? What's going to be your plan with James?
Yeah, okay. First of all, Christmas is called off until after Christmas. Christmas ain't a thing. We have made it clear all along that we want 10 weeks prep. So right now we're 11 weeks out, so it's just still ticking over. And then Saturday week, when we get to the 10-week countdown, then James will start preparation in earnest. And he's been doing a lot of clever work behind the scenes. been working on a lot of different things. Seen great improvements in James in lots of areas, and as I said earlier in the interview, I think you will see. I'm going to say, I think you're going to see a career performance here because one, the inspiration, two, where it's been a quiet time behind the scenes. You've been working on a lot of different things, and James has matured a lot physically, even in the last year or 18 months. And I think it's all started to come to a blossom now that in these fights you're going to see some real great performances. And I can feel it with this BADOU Jack fight, just in his whole attitude. Just see him go out the door and have a run now. He's absolutely buzzing about this fight. He weren't buzzing about the Medina fight, I'm going to be honest. It was a job he had to do, and he went and done it. But on this fight, I see a different James DeGALE. I see an excited James DeGALE. He's up, he wants to know when we're doing this, when we're doing that. He's chasing me on sessions and when we're going here. So I'm excited about this fight, and I'm sure British boxing will all get behind James and see a new WBC champion.
Are you bothered about where the fight will take place?
Not one bit. Like, of all the kids I've known in the sport, James DeGALE in that situation is a one-off. Like, to him, and he says it over and over again, a ring is a ring. Place it where one must. If it's in London, it's in London. If it's in America, it's in America. If it's in Timbuktu, so be it. He genuinely don't care. And great mentality to have, and not many fighters, most fighters want home advantage, isn't it? But James says his home is the ring. So really, I'll go with James on that one. I'm cool, calm and collected about where the fight takes place. I want to see James. I don't think James realises how much people appreciate him as a fighter. But when I'm out, and the feedback I get, like when people get in contact with me, is unbelievable. So I think if he does end up boxing in the UK, I just think he'll be surprised by his reception, because I think people have really realised how good James is, and that he is the real deal. And somewhere along the line, that homecoming reception, I'm sure will happen.
If he's successful on the 14th, there's a huge fight there with Callum Smith in the offing, so that would be great for British boxing if that fight will happen.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's what the sport's about. The best boxing, the best, and Callum Smith's a brilliant fighter. And James DeGale's the man in command. So that's the route that if you want to be champion, people are going to have to go. And I think it's a fight that I'm sure everyone especially in British boxing, would look forward to watching. And it's a fight that would get the excitement, get the attention, and everyone in the sport would love to see it happen.
Now, Jim, would you refer to James as a 15-round fighter?
Well, actually, not today, because he's just gone out for his run, so he's not in full training. So we'll put him as an 8-round fighter today. But when he gets in the ring for this fight, he'll definitely be a 15-round fighter.
You've done an impression of yourself there. Brilliant. No, I'm assuming you have watched Mr. Hearn's impressions of the very few people in boxing. I was saying British boxing, but he's done world boxing as well. What did you think of his impression of you, Jim?
I think Edward is very characteristic. I think he's an articulate young man. I think he's blossomed into the promotional game. I think he's futuristic, big style. I think he's a man with the golden touch who loves the echo. I think he gives a fantastic perception of people. I think his transactions absolutely first class. So I'll give Eddie the thumbs up. He's bang on.
So just to clarify, you weren't one bit upset by Eddie's impression of you?
I just think he could have done it a little bit better. No, Eddie's cool.
Don't, because he'll give another stab at this now.
No, actually, I've watched some of the drills he's doing. The way he takes off some of these different people. I don't know about boxing. He should be on the stage, doing impersonations, absolutely. Yeah, I find it really funny. I just think it's hilarious. I think it's really, and if you can laugh at yourself, because Eddie probably laughs at himself as well. I think, I can't believe I've done. Yeah, it's cool, man. It's cool. Ed, that's cool, mate. Don't worry about it. But don't worry. Big fight in the O2, I think it'll go down really well, Two good fighters getting in the ring, and it's like, boxing's buzzing at the moment, I just need a big atmosphere at the O2, Ed,
All right, well listen, Jim, thank you very much for talking to IFL TV. I'm sure we'll catch up with you before we obviously go out. We've got, like I said, 11 weeks away from the fight date, so good to see Jim, James buzzing, yourself buzzing, and the whole team buzzing over this huge fight, wherever it be, in New York or Vegas next
Either
year.
or. as James says, rings a ring.
Rings a ring indeed. All right, thanks for talking to us, Jim McDonnell.
Thank you, Kugan. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate.